Hello and welcome to Quiz Class. Today we have 100 questions on the 1960s. Here we have our Quiz Class awards. Let us know how you ranked in the comments at the end. And today we will be looking at 5 different categories: the 1960s history, entertainment, music, artists, businesses and innovation, culture and sports, and science and inventions. And we begin with history. Who was a 1966 political organization advocating for the rights and freedom of African Americans? The Republicans, the KKK, or the Black Panther Party? The Black Panther Party. Which U.S. president was assassinated in 1963? John F. Kennedy, Herbert Hoover, or Richard Nixon? John F. Kennedy. The Bay of Pigs invasion occurred in which country? Cambodia, Cuba, or Vietnam? Cuba. Which war began in 1955 but escalated in the 60s, creating widespread anti-war movements, especially in the U.S.? The Korean War, the Imperial War, or the Vietnam War? The Vietnam War. Lady Madonna, released in 1968, was a hit by who? The Beach Boys, the Beatles, or the Animals? The Beatles. TARDIS is the name of which gadget in Doctor Who? Computer, time machine, or tablet? Time machine. What a Wonderful World was sung by Ella Fitzgerald, Freddie King, or Louis Armstrong in 1967? Louis Armstrong. Who delivered the speech "I Have a Dream" in Detroit in 1963? Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., or JFK? Martin Luther King Jr. In 1961, which wall was constructed to divide the Western region from the Eastern? The Berlin Wall, the Great Wall of China, or Hadrian's Wall? The Berlin Wall. Which European nation invaded Czechoslovakia in 1968? Poland, East Germany, or the Soviet Union? The Soviet Union. Which actor played the first Doctor Who? Tom Baker, William Hartnell, or Paul McGann? William Hatnell. Which Kennedy brother was assassinated in 1968? Ted Kennedy, RFK, Robert F. Kennedy, or JFK, John F. Kennedy? RFK, Robert Kennedy. During which 1967 war did Israel occupy Golan Heights, Gaza Strip, West Bank, and the Sinai Peninsula? The Six-Day War, the Suez Crisis, or the Yom Kippur War? The Six-Day War. When did the first U.S. combat troops arrive in Vietnam? 1963, 1964, or 1965? (1965). The 1969 Stonewall riot is believed to have led the what rights? Civil rights, gay rights, or women's rights in the U.S.? The gay rights movement. The Soviets were the first to launch spacecrafts, but who were the first to successfully land on the moon? The Russians, the Americans, or the Chinese? The Americans. Who was the second man to walk on the moon in 1969? Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, or Alexei Leonov? Buzz Aldrin. When was Martin Luther King Jr. assassinated? 1968, 1969, or 1970? (1968). Pebbles was a character in which 60s TV show? The Flintstones, Gunsmoke, or Bonanza? The Flintstones. Question 20. Good Vibrations was a song by which 60s band? The Beach Boys, The Who, or The Crystals? The Beach Boys. And let's move to entertainment, music, and artists. In which state did the Woodstock Music Festival take place? New York, California, or North Carolina? New York. Led Zeppelin released their first album in which year? 1969, 1968, or 1967? (1969). The lead singer of the Australian folk band The Seekers was Bruce Woodley, Keith Otker, or Judith Durham? Judith Durham. Question 24. Jim Reeves died in a plane crash in which year? 1968, 1969, or 1964? (1964). Led Zeppelin released which album in 1969? Physical Graffiti, Led Zeppelin, or Houses of the Holy? Led Zeppelin. Who originally recorded The Last Thing on My Mind in 1964? Tom Paxton, The Seekers, or Neil Diamond? Tom Paxton. John Fogerty became the leader of which music band in 1967? Guns N' Roses, Creedence Clearwater Revival, or Green Day? Creedence Clearwater Revival. Which board game gained popularity after featuring on The Tonight Show in 1966? Monopoly, Risk, or Twister? Twister. Which musician did not perform at Woodstock? The Who, Jimi Hendrix, or Elvis Presley? Elvis Presley. Hello Darkness, My Old Friend is a lyric from which 1960s song? My Girl, The Sound of Silence, or Let's Twist? The Sound of Silence. Which was not a British music band popular in America in the 60s? The Kinks, the Beatles, or Guns N' Roses? Guns N' Roses. Which football team has the most Super Bowl wins? The Green Bay Packers, the Dallas Cowboys, or the Pittsburgh Steelers? The Pittsburgh Steelers. Mustang, Camaro, and Pontiac GTO were what? Popularized in the 60s? Muscle cars, vans, or sedans? Muscle cars. Which American annual football championship was introduced in 1967? FIFA, Super Bowl, or Copa? Super Bowl. Which artist was not signed with Motown Records? Little Richard, The Temptations, or the Jackson 5? Little Richard. Which one of these television channels have not existed since the 1960s? NBC, TLC, or CBC? TLC. Which iconic 1969 music event was the landmark counterculture event? Coachella, Woodstock, or Sunburn? Woodstock Festival. The fictional British secret agent character James Bond was introduced in the cinemas in which year? 1964, 1962, or 1963? (1962). Which television show debuted in 1969 features Jim Henson's Muppet characters? Sesame Street, The Brady Bunch, or Room 222? Sesame Street. Question 40. Since which year did Johnny Carson host The Tonight Show? 1982, 1962, or 1972? (1962). And let's move over to businesses and innovation. The first Walmart opened in 1963, 1962, or 1965? (1962). Which 60s children's toy had a working heat source to make real food? Light Bright, the Easy Bake Oven, or Mary's Playhouse? The Easy Bake Oven. Kellogg's renamed their on-the-go toaster-ready breakfast pastry to what in 1964? Fruit scones, Pop-Tarts, or Pop Scones? Pop-Tarts. What was the name of the first computer game released in 1962? Tetris, Space War, or Elite? Space War. What did James Russell invent in 1965, which only gained widespread recognition in the 80s? The compact mouse, the compact disc, or the computer? The compact disc. Which material accidentally discovered in 1965 is lightweight and used in bulletproof vests? Copper, steel, or Kevlar? Kevlar. In 1967, the name for the prototype for the first handheld personal calculator was Calc, CalTeach, or CalTor? Cal Teach. The board game Battling Spaceships was originally called what in the 1960s? Battling Tops, Battling Spacecrafts, or Battling Space? Battling Tops. What did ARPA from the ARPANET CIA branch stand for? Advanced Recruiters Project Agent, Advanced Research Project Agency, or Advanced Recruiters Project Agency? Advanced Research Project Agency. The portable calculator was introduced in which year? 1969, 1967, or 1968? (1967). In 1962, which record replaced the reel-to-reel system? Walkman, cassette, or vinyl? Cassette. Which cash dispenser was invented in 1969? Amex, ATM, or PayPal? ATM. What was the coveted lamp in the 1960s and 70s? Micro lamp, lava lamp, or gas lamp? The lava lamp. Which doll was introduced in 1961 as a male pal for Barbie? G.I. Joe, Ken, or Chucky? Ken. What was introduced in 1969 that eased proper management of inventory and pricing in stores? Laser, barcode scanner, or electricity? The barcode scanner. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a confrontation between the U.S. and who during the Cold War? Excuse me. The Soviet Union, Iraq, or Cuba? The Soviet Union. Starburst was originally called what in 1960? Star fruit, opal fruits, or opal star? Opal fruits. What was not an original Fruit Loop color when introduced in 1963? Yellow, blue, or red? Blue. The first at-home microwave oven introduced in 1967 was called radar wave, radar range, or radar oven? radar range? In 1965, which product did Stephanie Kwolek accidentally invent during an experiment to make lightweight tires? PVC, Kevlar, or vinyl? Kevlar. And let's move over to culture and sports. The mop top was a hairstyle popularized by which music band in the 1960s? The Animals, the Beatles, or the Who? The Beatles. Question 62. Which style of pants became popular for both men and women in the 60s? Baggy, bell bottoms, or distressed? Bell bottoms. Following the release of the movie Beach Party, which swimming attire gained popularity in the 1960s? The wetsuit, the bikini, or swimming trunks? The bikini. In 1963, the New York Idlewild Airport was renamed JFK International Airport in memory of which American president? The 37th, the 35th, or the 36th? The 35th. The British secret agent James Bond is a fictional character created by J.D. Salinger, Franz Kafka, or Ian Fleming? Ian Fleming. Hippies, a counterculture group, emerged in which decade? The 1970s, the 1960s, or the 1950s? The 1960s. The comic book series The Amazing Spider-Man was released in 1965, 1963, or 1964? (1963). Which one of these clothing items would not be considered hippie? Tuxedo, fringed skirts, or tie-dye t-shirts? The tuxedo. In which comic book series did superhero Spider-Man first appear? The Amazing Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy, or Web of Spider-Man? Amazing Fantasy. Question 70. Which doll had her own dream house? Wishers, Barbie, or Chatty Cathy? Barbie. Which doll was inspired by the military? G.I. Joe, the Ken doll, or Cindy doll? G.I. Joe? What kind of shopping space gained popularity as a hangout spot in the 1960s? Shopping mall, shore rooms, or farmers market? Shopping mall. What was a 1960 psychological thriller directed by Alfred Hitchcock? The Birdie, Psycho, or American Psycho? Psycho. In which American state did the counterculture group emerge? Nevada, California, or Georgia? California. In 1966, Frank Sinatra won a Grammy for which of his recordings? Fly Me to the Moon, Strangers in the Night, or My Way? Strangers in the Night. Which music group released Stop in the Name of Love in 1965? The Seekers, the Beatles, or the Supremes? The Supremes. Who did Sharon Kristen Harmon marry in 1963? Ricky Nelson, Tom Tinker, or Mark Tinker? Ricky Nelson. Which popular guitarist performed at the Woodstock Music Festival? Keith Urban, Jimi Hendrix, or Joe Satriani? Jimi Hendrix. The first soap opera premiered on ABC in 1964. Was it Peyton Place, The Flintstones, or Batman? Peyton Place. Which of the following substance was legal in the 60s? Marijuana, LSD, or birth control pills? Birth control pills. Let's move over to science and inventions. The electric watt was invented in the 60s and sped up the computation of numbers. The computer, the calculator, or the TV? Calculator. What is the symbol for the chemical element lawrencium, discovered in 1961? LM, LR, or LA? LR. Which type of new material were some clothing manufacturers using to make shiny clothes in the 60s? Wood, vinyl, or PVC? vinyl? Question 84. In 1960, which pill was approved by the FDA for distribution? Viagra, birth control pills, or progesterone-only pills? Birth control pills. Lr and 103 is the simple and atomic number of which element discovered in the 1960s? Dubnium, lawrencium, or rutherfordium? Lawrencium. The first man landed on the moon in which year? 1965, 1969, or 1968? 1969. The U.S. introduced which public service in 1968? The FBI, 911, or the CIA? (911). What is the symbol for the chemical element rutherfordium discovered in 1964? Rm, Rf, or Rq? Rf. Which American is popularly remembered as the first man on the moon? Alexei Leonov, Neil Armstrong, or Buzz Aldrin? Neil Armstrong. The what was a program to eliminate poverty and racial injustice in America? Was it the Great Society, the Diners Club, or the American Society? The Great Society. The Easy Bake Oven toys initially had what as the source for heat? Coal, gas, or light bulbs? Light bulbs. Question 92. Rf and 104 is the symbol and atomic number of which element discovered in the 1960s? Lawrencium, dubnium, or rutherfordium? Rutherfordium. What did William A. Mitchell not invent? Pop rocks, pizza rolls, or Cool Whip? Pizza rolls. What was invented through the experimentation with textured wallpaper? Was it bubble wrap, duct tape, or double-sided tape? Bubble wrap. Which spacecraft carried the first man into space in 1961? Sputnik 1, Vostok 1, or Apollo 11? Vostok 1. Which country first successfully sent a man to space in the 1960s? The Soviet Union, the UK, or the US? The Soviet Union. What is the full form of ZIP in zip code introduced in 1963? Zone Index Post, Zone Improvement Plan, or Zone Identification Post? Zone Improvement Plan. dB and 105 is the symbol and atomic number of which element discovered in the 1960s? Lawrencium, dubnium, or Rutherfordium? Dubnium. During which space mission did the US successfully land men on the moon? Apollo 10, Apollo 11, or Apollo 13? Apollo 11. And our 100th question. What is the symbol for the chemical element dubnium, discovered in 1967? Is it Dn, Db, or Du? Db. Our bonus question. Apart from Cool Whip, what did William A. Mitchell also originally create? Let us know the answer in the comments. And here we have our quiz class Einstein rewards. Don't forget to let us know how you ranked. And we thank you once again for being with us today. And we will see you in our next quiz. Bye-bye now.